Hi everyone, and welcome to this meetup. So today we will talk about a super conference that we recommend with Guillaume. So it's called NDC Porto. I will do this sharing because today it's really about our sharing. We were there with Guillaume at this conference a few weeks ago now, and we wanted to share with the community what we have discovered, what we have learned from those sessions. As you can see on my screen, we have seen a lot of sessions, so we need to prioritize this list. We won't be able to deep dive into all the topics, unfortunately, or fortunately for you. It depends on what you want to learn. But what we'll ask you, and how we'll do it, we will take a few minutes to introduce a few seconds, let's say, to introduce the NDC conference. Guillaume will do it in a few seconds. Then in a few words, if you need, we can, let's say, just maybe argue or detail some sessions. And then what we will ask you is to vote directly on Miro, to vote on the session that you want to discover during this hour. So yeah, small presentation of the NDC conference by Guillaume. Introduction to the talk if necessary, vote, and then we can take a few minutes. So we will take a few minutes, so 6 minutes of talk presentation. So we will try to restitute, to give you the main ideas that we have taken from each session that you will want to discover, and then we can stay 2 minutes of Q&A by conference, by session if you want, and more if you have time and if you want it. Guillaume, floor is yours.
Well, thanks for the floor. I'll just share. I'll steal your sharing for a moment.
Yeah.
So, what is NDC? So, as Johan mentioned, it's a conference that happens to be worldwide. I do not know when it was created, but basically there are a few cities in the world where they organize conferences like this, where it's always on like 5 days, and you always get 2 days of workshop and 3 days of presentations. So as you can see, there are still many remaining this year. There was also London, so Porto is where we went. And this is basically the page of the events with a lot of very cool speakers. So as you can see, Scott Enselman, we have Mark Randall, Jimmy Bogart, Mark Simon, a really cool roster of speaker. So that's it. We went there end of April, and I just want to mention that the idea is not to provide you the same talk that we attended, because we don't have the time nor the knowledge, but more like a retrospective of what we've seen, what was interesting, what was the standout of every presentation. One thing to mention is most of the presentations are already available on YouTube if you want to look at them. And if they are not, they will be soon enough, because these are conferences that you can find in also other conferences like GoTo, Devternity, or whatever. So as Johan mentioned, here are the talks that we attended. Feel free to take a look. I just want to highlight something. It's below. There is another one that we attended that we didn't want to put there. The main reason is the guy is coming in Luxembourg next month to do it directly. So we don't want to spoil you. We don't want to give hints or whatever. So Mark Simon will be there on June 7th for his talk about the fractal architecture and the hex flower. It's really interesting. I really recommend you to go there if you can. So keep in mind it's on site, limited to 50 people. So if you register, make sure that you can attend. And if you are really interested also to dig deeper with Mark Simon, we also have a 2 days workshop, the 8th and 7th of June, about his last book, Code That Fitting Head. So Johan, I will let you also introduce the next event for the meetup if you want.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know if you were there. So we have Valentina here. So cheers, Valentina. Yeah. So during the session with Valentina regarding clean architecture, we have Mike who talked about example mapping and how he's using it. How he's using this tool to deep dive into domain concepts and to design boundaries for his domain. And the idea is to deep dive into this topic with him directly. So on the 28th of June, we'll have a session called Domain Experiments, and we'll deep dive into example mapping, test-driven development, and domain-driven design, and see how we can mix all together to experiment quickly on our domain boundaries. It will be really interesting, I think. So if you're interested in all those topics, don't hesitate to register as well. Okay, it was the advertisement part for next events. Yeah, because we want to share and we want to promote a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of cool stuff are coming. We have other stuff that will come as well. Now I think you are pretty more 8 on the board, so I think, yeah, 8 excluded Guillaume and I. So I think you are all there. So what we will do is to give you some minutes to vote directly on the board. And let's stay, we have, yeah, please, yeah, we haven't, yeah, it's also sticky notes, fractal architecture. So I think you will be able to vote on fractal architecture, but please don't vote for don't vote for this session, don't vote for this talk. You can vote for anything you want. What we will do is to limit the vote of let's say 5 votes per person, and you can spread your vote as you want on the board. If you really want to deep dive into one topic, don't hesitate to put 4 dots, for example, 4 votes on the same one. I don't know. It would really depend on what you want to cover during the session. So I will launch the vote. Normally, it should be really easy to vote. You should be able to do it. You can, yeah, leave your and you can, yeah, click on it. You can directly say join voting, and you should be able to vote directly on sticky notes. If you need, so let's take 2 minutes to do it, to vote. And if you need any explanation on one talk, don't hesitate to ask. If you need some guidance to vote or anything else, don't hesitate to unmute and to ask directly your question.
Yeah, because you can have some surprises sometimes. Just if you base yourself on the name of the content, it's not really the same. So,
yep.
Don't hesitate if you need a little bit of details. Also, one thing we mentioned, it shouldn't be affecting your vote, but next to every ticket, you see a little guy. The mime is basically Johan, and I am the Joker. So this is basically what we choose to talk about. But it's still going to be collaborating, not only one guy talking. So.
So where are we?
Also, one thing to mention, everything that we will show you today is already on a GitHub repo that will be shared later, I think. And this is where we put all our notes, basically all the pictures we took, and also some useful links if you want to dig deeper, or if you want to look at other things that the creator did or other related content. So it's really a way just for you to put the first step into a topic and then dig if you want to.
Yeah. Great. So Guillaume, I let you start. We will start by the first one. Oh. It's really weird, bring to front. Yeah, I will do it for us. So we'll start with the first one called the Ground Unified Theory of Clean Architecture and Test Pyramid.
That was a great one.
Yeah.
So do you have a timer or something?
A timer? Yeah.
I don't know how you want to.
Yeah, I started the time. I started. Yeah, 6 minutes from now. Yeah.
Okay, so we attended this one. So as Johan mentioned, it's called the Grand Unified Theory of Clean Architecture and Test Pyramid. So it was presented by Guillaume Ferreira, which is a senior software engineer at checkout.com Porto. And the idea of the talk was to explain how we went from something that we used to call N-tier architecture or 3-tier architecture to clean architecture. So it's really a shift of mindset starting from a data-driven architecture to a domain-driven architecture. Because something I used to say often is the value of your product doesn't rely on the data, it relies on what you sell is the business value, the business behavior, and the business logic. So we started from the N-tier and we went slowly to hexagonal architecture early in the 2000s, to then onion later in the 2000s, and clean architecture, which is basically a kind of an evolution of those two early in the 2010. So, but where do we go from there with the agile testing pyramid? And this is something that Guillaume at the time put a lot of focus on, is to simplify your life, because this gives you hints on what to test and why. So when you have, right now we have something hexagonal, coincidence. It's really important to separate drivers, because you know it's always about port and adapters, but you have two different type of drivers. You have, I think there is an issue in the slide. It's for adapt. You have two types of adapters actually. So you have driver adapters, which are the ones that are initiating a flow. So the one on the left, test cases, human user, API call, app, whatever. This is triggering a behavior. And you have driven adapters. And this is where basically where you will have side effects. There can be a database, application, file system, message queue, anything. And it's really important to separate them because you are not going to use them and test them in the same way. One thing interesting in the way that we may present it in the hexagonal architecture is that for every port that you will create, you will need always to have at least two adapters, one for a real case scenario and another one for a test case scenario. And that's a really interesting point of view. So as we said, driving adapters are driving the interaction, and driven adapters are basically the side effect. So it's a shame we don't have a best one for this one. Yeah. So because that's really an interesting topic also, it's what do we call the screaming architecture? It's an architecture that stands out for itself. You know what it does just by looking at it. And this is something I used to say often. You group stuff not by what they are, but by what they do. And for example, you don't group all your controllers together. You don't group all your handlers together. Or your commands together, you group them by use case. And it's something that we saw in the last meetup with Valentina. It's much more easier to understand the behavior if you have everything grouped together. And that's really important. And then comes the fun part. You probably have seen already a diagram of the agile pyramid of testing. And this is how we may present it in correlation with the architecture. So it describes only 3 layers on the pyramid. So unit, integration, application. You can have 3, you can have 5, you can have more. But what's really interesting there, it's really correlated to a specific layer of your architecture. And you'll see it's much detailed on the slide later. We also had a few descriptions about what tests should be, in a way. So regarding unit tests, so this is pretty straightforward. You should be quite familiar with it. So a test is not a unit test if it talks to the database, if it communicates across network, etc. So this is isolation, etc. And this is a very interesting picture. It's called the test desiderata. It's written by Ken Beck and Kelly Sutton, and it's something you can find on his blog. I think the link is below on the GitHub page. And every statement you see there is illustrated by a 5-minute video. So this is something really important to know. And you can dig a link to this. This one comes a little bit out of context, but it's the difference between solitary testing and sociable testing. And I think it really relates to the two schools of TDD, because you have solitary tests, basically monkeys, where you test your unit alone, while in sociable tests you're using your unit as a group of components that you test together. But that was a nice presentation for this one. So how do we put clean architecture and the agile test pyramid together? So as you can see, we used to be on hexagonal. Now it's a little bit more like an onion. And this is where you get stuff that gets really interesting, because you can have, as we usually say, your functional core. So the domain, this is what, the timer?
Yeah, but continue just to close the session to conclude on it.
Oh yeah, we are close to the end anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
And for example, we have the DB being a driven adapter. This is what you will test, for example, on an integration test, like this one. And in that scenario, Guillaume suggested that you don't care at all about what's contained in your core. So core is really for clean, so it's application plus domain. And you can use just the API, not the core, and you test the DB directly. And that's a nice way of putting it, because this is, I think, the slide that stands out from the presentation, is really assign one layer to one level of the pyramid. So unit is for application core, so application plus domain. Integration only for driven adapters, so file system, DB, external system, etc. And application or end-to-end testing, you group everything together. And this is something really that I think sometimes it's really difficult to put that into a single image, or really to have this perception. And I think this slide was really helpful for some people. And actually, Mark Simon in the audience said that it was the best slide of the presentation too. So just to wrap up, this is a way to bring simplicity into what you test, why, and how. And he also had another presentation about simplicity that we didn't attend. Try to reduce the test to the minimum. So this is something that would require a little bit to dig more into that. And yeah, so if you want all the resources, hello Valentina, this is something that you shared last time, sorry. The test there's a radar from Ken Beck, so go there. Solitary and sociable test and Hiram's law. So feel free to take a look at those that are really interesting. The talk from Guillaume is not yet available on YouTube. And normally it will be at the end of the NDC season, which should be in the next few months, if you want to take a look at this one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that, because from what I've seen, you remember they sent the link with all the recording for all the days, but it wasn't those kind of session wasn't there, because you remember it wasn't in the room 1 or 2, and I think except from the keynote, all the rooms were not able to record anything. So I don't think it will be online. Not for this one.
But it will also talk on other sessions on other DNDC, so maybe it will happen. So.
Yeah, at one point, yeah. Okay, so let's take just let's say 1 minute to debrief. Do you have any questions, any feedback on this session? Yeah, please, Valentina.
Yes, I found it quite a great presentation, and a lot of the source material also matches with what I used as also the basis for the last meetup. I highly want to recommend to everyone that list of from Kent Beck regarding characteristics of unit tests. That one really pushes towards state-based verification instead of interaction based. And the other, I think, great part in this presentation was how they the definition of unit tests for testing the core and integration test, essentially meaning testing adapters. So that's something which I'm also using in practice. Okay, the only one that's, I guess, regarding naming is the word application. In some other ones they call it system or end to end.
Yeah.
But overall I found that yeah, that's a pretty good summary. I liked it how and the way that this person presented it.
Yeah, that's why it's closely related. So I've added your your slides directly in the resources. That's
excellent.
Yeah. I've seen your slides before the session, and I said to Guillaume, yeah, if you come to a next meetup, you will see. It's really ideas are really close. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing this.
Okay, so next topic, if you haven't any other questions or any other remarks, interesting, thanks. Thank you, Alexandre. So this one is done. The next one is, okay, we have 2 frees. As you prefer, actors or goodbyes controllers. All right, let's start by actors. So you will, I take one and you take one.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it like this. You can prepare a demo in in parallel. Okay, so let me share my screen. So desktop 2. Yep. Share. So it's a huge. This one is a huge topic. Yeah, the other one was also, but this one can be really technical. So the idea is really to have an overview of the session. Basically, this session was, yeah, just like the name said it, was on actor models and on domain-driven design, and how we can use actor modeling in domain-driven design, with domain-driven design. So the talk was by Anne Slofter. I don't know how to say that. It's Flamand. I think it's something like this. So he's from Belgium. His idea was, yeah, his topic was really cool for the record. So basically, he wanted to send during the pandemic. He wanted to send a lot of beers, Belgian beers, because yeah, they are really good beers. So he wanted to send a lot of beers to his friend all around the world, and by doing it, he has seen that it was really a nightmare to manage where he's tracking. The tracking systems were really shitty. And he wanted to, yeah, try to create something to handle all the events that happen on his tracking. I don't say that in English. It's tracking. C'est ses envois. C'est ça, c'est tracking. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's tracking. Yeah. So we wanted to really know and understand all the tracking, where they are, what are the next steps, all the events that have occurred on each tracking, and because he's an expert in Aka.net, he wanted to use Aka.net for to develop something. So I don't know if you've already heard about it. There is Aka in Java that exists in Java. It was the first one, but a few years after the creation of Aka, a bunch of guys have developed the .NET version. So I think they are pretty much different now from between Java and .NET. We haven't chosen the same paradigms, the same decision, let's say it. So Aka is really, yeah, Aka or Aka.NET is an actor model system. It's a whole framework with that comes with a lot of stuff. You will see not that much in details, but you can really deep dive in. It's a whole topic by itself. But basically, what we have with Aka.NET and actor modeling in general, we can represent each entity, each business entity by an actor in actor model. It's the whole idea of it. So we represent our business entity with actors, and actors can talk to each other only by what we call a mailbox. So actor can only speak to another actor through a mailbox system, and those mailbox, it's an asynchronous system. It's just like posting something, subscribing to something, and so on. And you wanted to use this actor system, this actor model, in his implementation. But why? Because it said, okay, I want to express something really good. I want to design something that is really clear, and I want my test to be really, really clear, really human readable. I want to have a system that can scale. I want a system with clean aggregate, without any implementation details, without any technical stuff in my domain model. So we said, okay, actor model and ACA can be a good fit for that. So we said, DDD in a nutshell. He introduced the topic with DDD in a nutshell. So we said, okay, business and code, we should talk the same language. Or I want to have this language in my test. In high level, we can think regarding bounded context, and at low level, yeah, we should have expressive code. The root for everything in DDD should be aggregate root, or aggregate, yeah. And yeah, often when you do DDD, you are close to use other patterns like a CQRS, so common query responsibility segregation, or even sourcing. So he decided to go on ACA, and just for you to know, an actor in ACA or in another actor system, what is it? An actor is really something, yeah, with a mailbox. So the actor will treat each message in the inbox sequentially, so one step at a time. So basically, it takes the actor will take the message in the inbox, call a behavior on it, and maybe make state changes, and then treat the other one, and so on and so on. In ACA and in other actor model system, it's guaranteed that you will have only one actor. You will have only one thread per actor. So it's solved for you and freely, just by design, all the concurrency problem that you could encounter on your systems. So no need to think about concurrency, no need to think about pessimist versus optimistic concurrency or lock, and so on. So it's a cool stuff. It comes by design. So it takes one message at a time, single threaded. Behind ACA, we have an actor system. So it's really the system that will handle all the actors that start a thread if necessary, that send the message between different actors, and so on. Or let's say that spread the messages between actors. So the actor system is responsible to manage actor life cycles. So if you need to erase one from or free some memory, messaging, inboxes, thread scheduling, and a system event bus, because you have an event bus that can be shared between a cluster. It's a huge topic, just like I said. There are plenty of concepts behind it. So basically what he wanted to promote in this conference, because yeah, I'm running out of time, it's really how simple it is to create an actor for each one of your aggregate. So I won't talk about it, but basically, yeah, here is where the magic happens. Here is where the actor and aggregate, in the sense of DDD, are coexisting. So what he has proposed is really to have an aggregate actor, yeah, with a T aggregate. So it's basically generic. So you can have an aggregate actor of track, for example, of tracking. It's a persistent actor, so you have different strategies to persist your actors. I won't go into it. And you just have to say, okay, I store my aggregate of T. I have a persistence ID, but it's really something technical. And here in my aggregate actor, in the constructor, I can define some stuff. Which command I want to subscribe in? How I recover from an event, from a given event, and so on. So it's basically some glue between your actors and your aggregate. So here is the glue between actors and aggregate. So wrap aggregate in actor. You have aggregate manager in this system. You have command router. Same thing. We have no time to do it, but to go into too much detail here. But what you need to remind is you can really have a one-to-one relationship between actor and aggregate. And what is really cool with a system like aka.net, it comes for free with a publish subscribe mechanism. So basically, internally in aka.net, you have access to what is called an event stream. It's not persistent if you don't specify it, but it comes with an event stream. And what you can do is really to publish and subscribe at the external of your application to this event stream, and maybe make some kind of publication, maybe some kind of notification. So it's really easy with aka.net to have some kind of mechanism, basic mechanism to make some event sourcing, to make some stuff like this, or at least to propagate events really easily without making a lot of investment on an event store or something like this.
One thing to add from my side there before you go further. So first of all, it's not really the easiest talk to talk about.
No,
so,
yeah.
But what's really outstanding with aka.net is the number of features that it provides built in. So because if you want to do, let's say, secure event sourcing from scratch, you have a lot of boilerplate code to write, a lot of things to maintain. And everything that you need to do in order to make a flow end-to-end with aka.net provides it. And you spend much of your time actually working we're working on, let's say, scalability, performance, etc. Will be, I don't remember the one that is supposed to master our puppets as an orchestrator. And so you spend your time, I think, that are much more valuable than boilerplate. And the library is really impressive, but it looks like it's not super easy to jump on it right away. But I'll let you continue. There are some interesting resources at the end of the page.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What is really cool with aka, just like you said, you can avoid a lot of boilerplates. But yeah, the learning curve can be really hard. I have already tried it, aka at the time. I have already also tried another one that is called Orléans. It's the same concept, except you will talk about grains, about, I don't remember the name in Orléans, but it's basically the same ideas. And on the paper, it's really easy, but you will have to master the system. You will have to master aka. You need to deep dive in. You cannot say, okay, I go on it and I will discover. No, you need to understand each topic of it before making your choice. But it can really be easy to use, but you need to master it. And what is really cool at the end, yeah, it just demonstrated what he has at the end, clean tests. A beer shipment test. So we say, okay, it's an aggregate test on beer shipment. My shipment will have this. I set up my shipment like this. Given a new shipment created with a shipment ID that I've generated, I added a beer. I added a label on it. When I send beers, I expect beer sent with the shipment ID I have generated just at the line. Yeah, there is no number, but you know it. A grid, new grid. So it was really interesting because you can really design your system. It can really avoid you a lot of pain when you want to make some system like with secure event sourcing and stuff like this. It avoids you to set up stuff like Mediator to have an event built-in memory. It avoids to use maybe an event store to set up your repositories and so on. Yeah. So Valentina, I see that you have some questions on the chat. Does the actor essentially encapsulate the aggregate? Yes, it's wrapping the aggregate inside an actor. The rest of the system doesn't know about the aggregate. Instead, the rest of the system just sends messages. Yeah. The actor processes the aggregate, it wraps. Yep, that's it. Message build.
It's really like a overhead above your aggregate with a lot of built-in features.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. To me, this looks like use cases in clean architecture, especially the part when, it's basically, it's mostly on the architecture side that will change a lot, because with Akka, you have plenty of mechanisms that you need to master. Just like I said, you have one thread per actor. You have only communication through inbox mechanism. So you will need to think about your architecture differently. It comes from free with a lot of mechanism, but yeah.
You really need to have a Akka architecture to use Akka. I think if you compare the number of entities that you generate on the dependency graph, you have much more actually on Akka. But it's also a way to bring more on the table. For me, I remember during the presentation, it was a bit overwhelming because every time it was showing like, hey, you used to do that, it's done, boom, and you have something already done in Akka that does it for you, and you're like, okay, but what code what code is remaining for me to write at the end? And really focus on everything that brings business value. So it's really interesting. It's not compatible for everything, but if you really like event sourcing, I really recommend to just take a look at. I shared earlier in the chat another talk by Hannes on the topic. It's not exactly the same, but yeah, give it a try. It was really very interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and just like I said, the guy from Akka are really cool because they promote as well another, just like I said, there is Oleon, it's another framework from Microsoft, this one. And they have written a comparison between Oleons and Akka. So if you want to discover maybe what can be possible with those two, you maybe take a look at this comparison, because when you do comparisons, for obviously you take features by features and you say, okay, there is a difference here, there is a difference here, and so on. So maybe it will help to understand what can be done with it. Just like we said, it can save a lot of time, but you need to have a use cases for it. Does it have anything in common with microservices? You can design microservices using Akka, but yeah, it depends on the architecture that you want to put inside, to put in place, to set up at the end. You can do microservices with anything. You can do without Akka, you can do with Akka. It depends really on your use cases, what you want to achieve.
It's not related, but they are not exclusive.
Yeah. Okay. If it's okay for you, folks, let's go on the other topic. I don't know why I don't have the vote anymore. Results, voting one.
The other one was goodbye controllers, if I remember.
Yeah, goodbye controllers. So and
okay, so I'll share again. 6 minutes by presentation. We were a bit optimistic. Right?
Yeah, really optimistic.
Okay. So this one was about minimal APIs in .NET 6. So the talk was given by Nick Shapsa. So it's quite fun. He's quite popular. So I assume you guys probably know him. Mainly, we talked about why minimal APIs. So we know what they bring on the table. So writing full APIs with minimal setup. That's great, but so far they are not like super popular. For example, I'm one of the not skepticist, but I'm not totally sold yet, especially in regard with testing. Few people in the audience know about that, but they are doing great progress about that. So, what do they bring on the table? So, if you remember, we didn't share any comparison, but if you remember on previous .NET 6, you used to have a program.ts startup with all the setup of the web host with dependency injection, etc., and then various controllers. And using minimal APIs, you can have actually something like that. that does basically the same. And that's kind of sexy. I mean, they reduced a lot the number, the boilerplate that you can have. And they also addressed a few problems that I didn't realize before. I don't know if they will show them. By the way, all of the code that we are sharing there is directly from Nick's GitHub. It's available if you want to try it, if you want to look at how we did it. He's also using fast endpoints from an external library. And what's great about that is it allows you to have controllers that are compliant with the open close principle, which was not the case with previous controllers. That's a little cherry on the cake that I really like. So those endpoints allow you to split your code. So as you can see, I don't have like a controller with many endpoints like we used to have. I really have one class for one endpoint. And when you look at that, if I just, let's say, obfuscate the name of this, it looks like a handler from, just something that handles an event. And basically, that's the same here. So every endpoint will have its predefined class. And that's great for simplicity to avoid injecting a lot of dependencies that you may not use. And yeah, that's the one, fastendpoints.com. And yeah, so overall, it's really about reducing the number of code that you provide and being able to build and run an API much faster than we used to do. Also, there is quite some interesting performance improvements on .NET 6. We don't have any comparison here, but still interesting. But let's say the painting is not completely green yet. They have features that are not yet supported, and I really focus on the yets. It's still something that they are building on. And as Johan mentioned here, they already have a few stuff coming up in .NET 7 that will basically catch up on what the controllers provide. And this is really interesting. What minimal APIs are not. So they are not one-file API, because as you can see, it's just a way to minimize the setup. We don't have all our APIs in one file. I mean, it doesn't make no sense. It's not something just for demos or not just for beginners. It's something that you can use for enterprise applications if you want. And it's not something that is going to kill controllers, or at least not yet. Not something they are not gonna remove the global controllers yet. But why the necessity of minimal API? And this is the one slide from Nick's at the end that I think provides a good idea on why they need to why it was required for them to do that. Because a lot of concurrent languages are able to provide such minimal APIs, and until .NET 6, .NET wasn't. And when you look at new developers that are doing boot camps or whatever, they're going to see, for example, something on Express, like mentioned, that can create an API in a few lines. And on the .NET side, I need 3 files that are quite big, etc. People are going to go on the easy way. And the idea was to make sure that those people could also have options on .NET. Open them the door. They can get in .NET and try minimal APIs and then expand if they want. And this is analogy of a train. Basically, you know that you have a train running, it stops every time at every pit stop and way. People get in, people get out. The problem is with .NET, we had few people that were picking up the language. We had a lot of people on the train. Few people were getting out of the train, but few people was getting on the train. And this is where minimal APIs get in. They wanted to boost the number of people that were getting on the train. And I think it was a really good image of what was going on there. So it's really about attracting new developers and also provide options to developers. You can choose between a minimal or regular setup. So this was an interesting take on minimal API because this is something I was not really a big fan of from the beginning. But but at least understanding why they are here and what they are for was really an interesting point of view. So if you want to dig a little bit more, this is the GitHub from Nick Shatters about the minimal APIs. The new features in .NET 7 and the doc from Microsoft. I have to say, personal opinion, this presentation got me intrigued, and I want to try it now. I want to give it a try, which was not the case before. So I would consider it like summed up on the video.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are running out of time for this one, but yeah, just to conclude, yeah, I agree with you. But the main interesting part during the talk was not really for my side, was not really about minimal APIs or the news from Microsoft, but it was more about Fluent. What was the name? Fast endpoints.
Yeah,
really fast endpoints, because yeah, just like you said,
that's the one.
Yeah, this one. Here you can really break your huge fat controllers into something really small, really testable, really clear, without, just like you said, without a lot of injection, a lot of stuff in the constructor, because you need it at one point, and because controllers are taking, yeah, are built, our stuff are injected by constructors. You need to have a lot of stuff in your constructor, and it's really the main stuff I took from it, because it's really interesting to do it like this. And now if I need to make a new project in ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET 6 or 7, let's say it. Now it doesn't exist anymore, but I will go on it for sure. Fast endpoints, yeah, really easy to set up, much more clear what you take, input, output. It's really easy to understand, and behind it you can put your use cases, you can put everything you want. It's really easy to understand, it's really easy to follow the flow, instead of having huge and fatty controller. Do you have any questions regarding this session, regarding this talk?
I don't know if we have.
Goes well with other GitHub samples. I don't know, but
Okay.
if you can share it, yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, use case driven approach easier. Yeah, just like I said, yeah, you could have your it depends on how you call it, but your commands and your response in entrance really easy. You can follow your use cases really easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing. This is sort of like, I mean, when Uncle Bob in the whole idea of screaming architecture, that you open up a project, the use cases, but you still have to expand the folders to get to the use cases. And here, if you have a single file, you would see all the routes, and they would be linked to all the endpoints. So, I mean, I personally see the usefulness in that, even though previously to this, I wasn't really interested in minimal API, but after seeing this, it makes it look more useful.
Yeah, but so big changes, it could be a big change. And yes, you can have really clear flow, a clear vertical flow. So it's really, yeah, it's going to be really good in terms of design. What time is it?
I think we have to go for retro time.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have time to make another one.
Maybe the next one was domain-driven design refactoring. I think if you say we limit it to 3 minutes, I think we can demonstrate something, or you can demonstrate something.
Yeah, yeah, I think we can. I think we go fast. I mean, we don't even have to go really deep on this one.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So real fast DDD refactoring. So it was a talk by Jimmy Bogart. I do not know if this one is available on YouTube, but if it is, I highly recommend to watch it or either do it, take his repo and try it. So he basically presented a scenario where we had, another one. We had a list of models and one service. And so if you think about architecture, models basically are in the domain and services basically in the application. And the problem was the complete logic of this scenario was in the service, and models were anemic, so they didn't have any much value So when you look at, for example, the service, this is what we, does it fit on one screen? No, that's one red flag. So this is where you have a lot of logic, a lot of code there that shouldn't belong, that doesn't belong here, sorry. And his idea was to refactor this into something which is more domain-centric, like it should be. So I think in the flow that he presented is basically to split at least this code into 3 parts, and then adapt the models, move the code there using tests, etc. One thing we didn't know with Johan if it was something done on purpose. I think it is. It was to refactor only using the features from Visual Studio. He didn't.
Not Visual Studio, ReSharper.
Sorry, it was ReSharper. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, come on. Okay. But basically, yeah, he didn't write a class by himself. It was really about extracting, moving, refactoring, etc., to have something much more maintainable. So what did we have here? This is where, for example, he removed something. He did the final stage here. So the handler is now only this. So we have, where is the logic there? Member assign offer. So the logic is there. We have also directly the context that is called. So he reduced a lot of code from the service. He put a lot of code in the model where the code belongs. I don't have much more to share. I have it on my machine, but writer is not started. Anyway, 5 minutes is anyway too short. Really go take a look at his repo for this one. Even if you don't have, let's say, the past, why this went there, but compare the initial to the final solution. If you really wonder why you should put logic into your domain and not have any DOM models, this is really important. And he used patterns and ideas from 3 books. So one is missing from this slide. There is another one in the middle, which are refactoring to patterns, refactoring, and the other one I don't remember, but I know there was a 3rd one. So the code is there if you want. The books are there, and yeah, that's a really interesting talk. Really technical, but really also super useful, pragmatic. Basically, what you can see in any solution when you on your day-to-day work.
Just
right on time.
Yeah. Do you have any questions? Did the refactoring? Okay. Yeah. So thank you for the sharing, Valentina. One last stuff on it. Jimmy has shared also heuristics to discover when you look at the code at the main model. He pushed some heuristic that was really interesting. Does your name match? Does the name in the code match stuff in real world? Something that you can reason about it. Identify where the behavior is. Some smell to identify when you are in domain model. Look at the usings. Look at the comments. The code complexity. It shouldn't, but huge complexity in services are really smells. So you should not have this kind of complexity in your services. So maybe it's not at the good place, good location. Encapsulation, take a look at it. It started the kata by looking at encapsulation. Ensure that you respect the tell don't ask principle, for example. Don't ask your data to make some kind of decision. It should put your decision near from the data and stuff like this. So it was really a cool refactoring time, let's say it. So before and after, yeah. There's no test. So if you want to make this kata, please start by writing the test and then refactor the code. He has done it in YOLO mode. Do you have any questions regarding this session? No? Okay, so please come back to the board, to the Miro board. We'll just ask you to some feedback regarding the session, regarding what you have learned and stuff like this.
I'm sharing the
please.
page.
Yes. And so what we would like to, I can take the sharing. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
I steal the sharing. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, we would like to ask you some questions. So please answer it directly on the board. What did you learn from this session? Which topic do you want to deep dive in? And if you want to propose a talk, or propose, it's a huge word. Huh? If you want to make a talk in this community, don't hesitate to propose. We are really open to any event, to any kind of topics. So don't hesitate to propose something in this column. Anything that you want to share, don't hesitate to put it on the board as well. So please connect.
Also, if you'd like to dig into one of the topics that we saw today, let's say in like a full hour, it's something we can also try to plan or prepare.
Yeah,
it's impossible to give you like 3 days of conference into 1 hour. So we can try if you'd like to see some more about this one.
Yeah. Others, if you have any issues to join the board, or if you are on your smartphone, don't hesitate to push something in the chat. We can put it on the Miro board for you. Okay, thanks for your feedback.
And remember, there are plenty of resources in the GitHub that we share. Below, and for every page, if you go at the bottom, you have assigned resources if you want to look at it.
Yeah. In the meantime, when you write your sticky notes, key takeaways, because we don't have the time to see every session that we have seen. Maybe a quick words on other topics. There was a really good session from Scott and Salman on what is the difference between mentorship and sponsorship.
This one is on YouTube.
This one is on YouTube, yeah. From the day one, yeah. For this one. And yeah, it was really interesting to see a guy like him. I don't know if you all know him, but it's a cool guy from Microsoft. He's at Microsoft since maybe 20 years or something like this, an eternity. And he has a huge blog. He made some really good talks about a lot of stuff. He's really interesting. He's a really good speaker, and he talked about mentoring. And he say, even if you have maybe 20 years of experience, choose a mentor, and what was really cool is to say, be humble. Choose a mentor that is younger than you. So maybe someone who just go out from school, who has plenty of stuff to learn, to share with you, plenty of stuff on new topics that you don't even know. You have plenty of stuff to learn from youngest people. That was one of this message. You can take a look at on it on YouTube. It was really interesting, and I loved his sentence. You miss every shot you don't take. So don't hesitate to take some risk, to take some shot.
And don't be afraid to miss.
Don't be afraid to miss, yeah. And just like he said, it's our responsibility as managers, as I don't know, CEO, CTO, or whatever, or our manager as lead, or as developers, because we don't need any names, any title to make evolution in organization. So please act as a change agent in your organization as well. And he has plenty of theory on why we want to perpetuate some stuff that we have lived in the past. Well, yeah. One of the stuff was really cool. It was Backstage. It's basically Backstage Spotify. Yeah, it's a developer platform. It's open source. It comes from the guys from behind Spotify. You can do anything with this tool, but it seems really promising. I have taken some notes too, and I wanted to try it, so I need to try it in the coming weeks. It seems really promising. So you can have ready every stuff in one tool. So your documentation, your API gateway, everything that is available in the company, you can have everything in a single point of knowledge. Everything that is leaving the company, you can have it here. Links to your documentation, to your source code, to everything. You can really have everything. There are plugins for any stuff that you have in mind. It's really interesting. You have a plugin for TechRadar, you have plugin for any CI that exists, Jenkins and so on, for sure. Read the book Refactoring to Patterns. I didn't know about the book, and it seemed really promising how to refactor from let's say smelly code to patterns, and why you need to use each pattern. It's a notebook, but really promising book. Domain refactoring can have something to do with it, but yeah, before it, we have already talked with Guillaume. We need to adapt it.
It's in progress on my side.
Yeah. Clean architecture. I really love the idea of driving versus driven. It's the first time I've seen expressed like this. I think in other conferences, or when you look at clean architecture, you have this notion of adapters. You have maybe the notion of drivers, but often it's actors. I think they say, okay, at the left you have the actors, what we are called driving, and on the other part, I don't remember the name, but it's the first time I've seen it like this, driving versus driven. I thought it was a good definition of it. You can re-memorize it, and it's really expressing. Test desiderata. Just like you said, Valentina, it goes further than the first principles that you may already know. So it's really interesting to have it in mind when you write tests. Another idea: onboarding teams. Have a team that is responsible for onboarding people in a company. It was really interesting. It was a talk on tech leads and how you can help people when they join your company to make them more happy and more efficient when they come in your company.
Yeah, the talk was really interesting, and it
yeah.
was really something that we are not used to see when we talk about agility. And it's really about being responsible, having dignity for everybody. That's really interesting. It's the one from Anjois Simons.
Andres, well, yeah.
Yeah, Joker.
Yeah, but name is really hard to say.
But the talk was super great.
Yeah. Roslyn analyzers. If you don't know anything about Roslyn, take a look at Mark Rendell. He's really good, really good speakers, and you will laugh a lot. But basically, what I wanted to promote here is to say, okay, you can write your own Roslyn analyzers. Analyzers are used by your IDE, by Visual Studio to give you hints inside your IDE. And you can really, when you write a library, a common library in your company, for example, you can really promote analyzer. You can write an analyzer to promote good practices with your library. So it's really interesting. He has explained how he's writing it, and it was really interesting. But
yeah, he goes quite deep into Roslyn.
Yeah.
He also uses it to automatize tasks, like a task with huge volume, to make sure that you don't do something repetitive, but you can just write something to do it for you. And it really
and so on,
goes deep to Roslyn, and doesn't look easy. There isn't any documentation or something, but pretty difficult.
Yeah, Roslyn, basically it's a compiler as a service from Microsoft for .NET and C#. So you can make a lot of stuff with it, but it's not really easy to understand how to use it. You have some kind of, you have a visitor pattern, for example, but it's not implemented like a visitor. So you have visitor, you have knowledge, you have patterns in the code, but you don't need to use it as it could seem that you need to use it. So it's really weird, and it's really well explained by Mark. Yeah, I think it's so. Yeah, we'll break here for today. Maybe we have interesting stuff on the right of the board. So good presentation, slide summaries on GitHub, and this you have informative slide on GitHub. Well understood actor plus the debate. It sounds interesting. Yeah, just like we said, it's not easy to talk about, because I think, yeah, during 1 hour session, there was plenty of knowledge on it. It's, yeah, maybe we will organize something. Maybe we can try to invite him in this meetup. So you will have
it was the hardest to talk about.
Yeah.
This is why I didn't put it, take it. Sorry for this.
What could be missed while splitting monoliths to microservices with intermediate top at AK? Okay. So yeah, maybe yeah, it's one point that you can try to. We'll try to have Hannes in the meetup in the next session in the coming weeks or months. So we'll be able to deep dive into Akka. It'll be really interesting. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Guillaume.
The pleasure was mine. Always.
And see you next time. Thank you for coming. See you next time. Bye.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Have a nice day. Yeah.
Catch up soon.